Hello YouTubers, welcome back to my channel. After much delay on my end, it is time for my Attack on Titan reviews. A bunch of life stuff happened over the course of the holidays, that's why I'm releasing these now as opposed to November when I initially wanted to. But I think the love that people have for Attack on Titan is so immense that I think this show will always be relevant, so it's still worth doing. My last videos were on the Dragon Prince series, and I had done that because, similarly to Dragon Prince, Attack on Titan is a series that I think can be divided into two chunks. The first chunk being this video here, which will cover the first 3 seasons. I think the first 3 seasons have a very enclosed plot from the opening inciting incident, if you will, through all the missions that our main characters go through over the course of the first 3 seasons, culminating in a return to the original location, climax, and then final reveal that upends the entire narrative as you know it. And then season 4, which is an expanded out storyline that includes a multitude of newer and more diverse characters, which is similar to what Dragon Prince did with its show. For those who do not recall, I enjoyed the first chunk of Dragon Prince more than the second one, so let's see how I feel on Attack on Titan. A little bit of an update to my format. I'm going to cut out my memories section of these videos. After some consideration, I think it's a little overlong. So going forward, I will be releasing a list of my top memories with the videos I release. For Attack on Titan, however, Attack on Titan I enjoy this show so much, if I were to do a memory section, it would probably be somewhere along like 3 or 4 pages with a high memory on every episode. So this is just going to be my standard review for both sets of the show. For the uninitiated, what I do is I am reviewing 15 different narrative tenets based off of an architectural structural format, and then I will be giving a color ranking to each of those tenets and then averaging all of them out to get an overall review of the series. And this is Attack on Titan, often considered the greatest anime of all time, so let's begin. Number 1, levels of scale. And for this is going to set a trend here. I will be giving Attack on Titan seasons 1, 2 through 3 a purple. And realistically, the only reason this isn't a rainbow is because you can argue that the 3 concentric rings format is somewhat on the nose with its scale. And if it had been more, I guess, quote, realistic, in terms of how a city would be designed, like Ba Sing Se from Avatar, I could see giving this a rainbow, given how much I enjoy this format, because you have these 3 levels that for much of the runtime the characters are being pushed further and further back, just as the scale of the world as we know it, from Eren is a Titan, to there are other Titans like Ymir, to holy shit, Reiner and Bertolt, what? To Titans are humans. And the scale of the world in which our knowledge of it expands bit by bit as our characters are being pushed further and back and pushed further into an enclosed space. And then all of this explodes out into the season 3 climax, in which our characters both fight against this enclosement and thus free themselves in regards to their levels of scale, only to find out that on the macro level, the levels of scale of which they know, they're actually extremely small. And maybe the concentric rings bit is the point, that it is so on the nose because it is entirely a fabrication. But for most of this runtime, it is played as legit, so hey, purple means it's spectacularly good, and that ain't nothing to shake a stick at. Number 2, strong centers. And similar to levels of scale, the only reason this ain't a rainbow is because the 3 concentric rings could be labeled as on the nose. Since otherwise, yes, that is the center of the world we know, but narratively, it keeps shifting and feels natural as it does. Once Eren's powers are revealed, he, in turn, somewhat becomes the center. And finding a way to his dad's basement becomes the central driving notion of the entire narrative. Meanwhile, the center that we thought we knew, the center of the walls, that is revealed to be a lie, in that the ruling faction is not the ruling faction, it's the Rice family, and thereby allowing Historia to kind of be a second would-be center right next to Eren. All this is revealed as the centerpiece of this greater conspiracy that our characters have to figure out while simultaneously figuring out their original center. Which, of course, when they figure that out, no, these characters are not the center of the world at all. All taken together, purple feels deserved. Boundaries. Blue. And again, the aforementioned walls and the fact that each boundary cross of these walls, metaphorical and literal, via a success, like taking back Trost, or saving Eren at the end of Season 2, which is linked, talking about the boundaries thing, to the reveal of Eren's real power. Or defeat, the failure of the scout mission in Season 1. It feels extremely earned, with enough time and episodes dedicated to each one of these boundaries, whilst at the same time the boundary of our knowledge of Titans and what this power is, like Hanji's experiments, Annie's existence, the Reiner and Bertolt reveal, Eren's true power, the Rice conspiracy. Again, it gets pushed further and further back until the explosion of the Season 3 climax. So I wouldn't say it's as strong as Levels of Scale and Strong Center, because it isn't as linked to character, I'd say, more or less related to the magic system and the world building. But given how good that is, blue ain't bad. So blue. Alternating repetition. Green. And if anything, one of the successes of Attack on Titan is that aspects don't really repeat all that much, deliberately, I mean. Events play out very naturally, and when things do repeat, there is more of a reason for it than otherwise. So like Trost, which feels like a mirror to the first episode, or Annie and Eren fighting twice, or Hannes' death mirroring that of Eren's mom's death. There's some decent alternating repetition in Season 2, jumping back and forth between Eren's group and Reiner's, before switching it once Eren is taken, and then bringing them back together, thus symbolizing Eren and Historia being our narrative centers for this chunk. AOT doesn't necessarily super focus on this tenet, but that's really because it is focusing on others, so it's still decent, that's why I'm saying green, but other tenets are going to get higher colors here. Positive space. Purple. And there's a lot of examples of really good positive space here, and even the ability to invert it on multiple occasions depending on perception. So Titans at first feel like extremely dangerous positive spaces. They both take up a lot of space, and they can literally murder any one of our characters. But then we feel like we can cheer every time Eren becomes one. And then we have the positive space in regards to how the truth slowly peels back, or the fact that the Beast Titan takes up the most space of the narrative in this section, or just that the moments of pure nothingness at the beginning, in Trost, in Utgard Castle, or the moments before Erwin's stand, these moments feel so dire. So then when we bring them back around into not necessarily joy, but a sense of any moment in which the characters win, metaphorical positive space, feels expertly earned. So purple, yes. Good shape, blue. And I'll mention more of this in graded variation, but in these 3 seasons, though some characters definitely change, especially Armin, it is just as much about our perception of these characters as it is their changes. So Eren's role changes the more we find out stuff about him. First being a sort of, upstart cadet, and then being the most important thing in the entire resistance that our characters can have, to then being, oh no, he's just been a tool, and then he has to now accept that. So all of that changes, as does Hanji. She goes from the, quirky scientist to being a commander. Erwin sort of, goes from just being this gung-ho commander to being this metaphor for wanting to find the truth. Aforementioned Historia, this sweet and innocent girl, to the queen, as does Eren's father. By the time season 3 ends, he very well could be seen as a villain, if you want to. And all this is tied to the Titans, which each make different, literal, good shapes over the course of the story. And as mentioned in Positive Space, our perception of them also changes. It's not as extreme as how season 4 is going to be, but it's up there. So, blue. Local symmetries. Purple. Now, season 4 will ultimately do this bigger and better, which means you could probably already guess what color I'm going to break out for season 4, which is all about our symmetries being more than our divides, but the seeds are already planted here. So we have the group of Eren, Mikasa, and Armin, her clear, symmetric poles with Reiner, Bertolt, and Annie. We tend not to see it as much in these earlier seasons because once the treachery of why Reiner's group is revealed, we're focused kind of more on hating them. We do see similar symmetries with John, Connie, and Sasha. They're seen as the silver trio, if you will. Then you throw in the symmetries that exist between Eren and Historia, or Eren and Ymir, or the aforementioned event symmetries, like the Scouts' failed mission at the end of season 1, mirroring that of the failed Scout mission in the premiere. I mentioned before, Eren and Annie have 2 fights that are both symmetrical and different as to how Eren tackles them. Hannes' death mirroring that of Eren's mom. Or the symmetries that we already begin to see between the aged Erwin and the young Armin, both of them willing to make that sacrifice play for the greater good, and all that comes to the head in Midnight Sun. So for all that it encompasses, purple. Deep interlock. And this is close. This is close. It is real close to giving out my first rainbow on this channel. Given the strength of how Eren's powers are revealed, or the real reason for Erwin's obsession for the scouting mission in season 1, or the introduction of other Titans, or the moment often considered one of the greatest twists in all media history, when Reiner and Bertolt are revealed to be traitors. And that's before we get to the reveal of Eren's power to control Titans, the truth about the inner government, and then, of course, the reveal of what is in Grisha Yeager's basement, which has been teed up since the beginning. One of the only reasons that this is purple and not rainbow is that, like Good Shape and like Levels of Scale and, Boundaries, many of these reveals are tied to the world and magic system and our perception of character rather than full-on changes to that character. And the extreme overload of Grisha's backstory is a lot to take in at once. It's still good, but it is almost too much, and it will take season 4 to unpack it to the best of its ability. So Rainbow means it's on the level of greatest of all time. This is still spectacular, but I have to be very sparing with giving out my highest color. So, purple. Contrast. And again, season 4 will dial this in deeper, as well as the nuances of it. But in the first 3 seasons, the contrast does evolve too, as the first season feels like humans versus titans, and then season 2 is titans versus titans, and then season 3 is humans versus humans. And with each bit, we move closer and closer to the contrast that exists between us and can tear us apart across generations. The only reason I don't place this as high as local symmetries is because, at least for now, our heroes feel like they are on the same side, and once our villains are revealed, we don't spend that much time in unpacking why they did what they did, why that contrast is there. We see it, we're ready to unpack it, but ultimately that ends up being season 4's job. There's other mini contrasts down there too, as many of the aforementioned symmetries also have elements of contrast to them. I just think there are more of the local symmetries here than there are contrasts, so blue. Graded variation, also blue. The reason I'm doing blue here and not purple is because, I've said this before, much of the graded variation comes from the world-building magic system and the layers at which the truth is revealed. Somewhat less so the characters. And again, Eren goes through his arc of, first he's this die-hard go-get-em person, and then he spends a bunch of time struggling with his powers, and then enters full depression mode in season 3. Then kind of reaches a state of balance and being able to fight with and for his comrades, but still being able to tap into his power, only for the rug to then completely get pulled from under him and everyone. Armin also, alone, could be enough to bring this up to a purple. That speech he has in Season 1, Episode 10 is one of my favorite moments in all of anime, same as his sacrifice in Hero. But otherwise, at least for now, I think Mikasa is a fairly static character. John and Connie, if you aren't considering the OVAs, are more or less the same. Sasha is the comic relief that we grow to love. Slightly more perception than character arc, but it's still there. This is, on some level, this should be more good shape than graded variation. Same with Levi, Hanji, etc. There's lots of good stuff here, and the world as we know it clearly does change, but I'm giving out purples pretty wantonly here, and this one isn't quite there. Season 4, on the other hand, that's a different story. Roughness. And like I said in graded variation, there's a ton of societal roughness to unpack. This is a blue, by the way. A ton of societal roughness to unpack in the world as we know it. We have our elites and our different factions within the society at play, affecting our characters, and like the military police versus the scouts and the walls, and you have the wall cult, and maybe they don't lean that much into the haves and have-nots, but it still plays into the people at the top being incompetent. All good stuff here. And then you take in the moments with magic system reveals, which gets rougher and rougher as the series goes on, and again, our perceptions to it. But again, outside of Eren and Armin, Erwin-ish, it is more on society and magic system and our perception than character. There's still some, but I would wager to say there's more of it in Season 4, so for right now, blue. Echoes, also blue. And as the series goes on, like I said, in contrast, the main theme of post-apocalyptic humans versus titans switches to titans versus titans to humans versus humans. and various characters ultimately end up as echoes of these themes. The tragedies of Eren's mom, Marco, the Trost squad that gets massacred that Eren and Armin witness, the deaths of Levi's squad, the pain and melancholy of Levi himself, that ultimately echoes Humans versus Titans. The reveals of Annie, Reiner, and the others echo the series' main contrast during the Titans versus Titans arc, but also echoes this sense of, do we become the monsters we become in order to protect ourselves, clash with, as we believe now, heroes versus villains. And then as we move up, characters that are only there in handfuls of moments like Kenny or Rice end up echoing these human elements of cowardice, or on the good side, friendship. And I think Eren, Armin, and Erwin at this point echo what will become the series' ultimate themes. And Armin, from the beginning, from that season 1, episode 10 moment, is always the advocate for trying to talk things through. Erwin is the one who represents that we must become the monster in order to survive. And Eren, in these 3 seasons, is kind of caught in the middle as to which one he will land on. Because outside of Erwin, many characters' characteristics in these earlier seasons take a backseat to the world reveals. So I'm going blue instead of purple. Does not mean it's not excellent. Alright. Getting to the void here. And here we go. I don't think, and I say this sincerely, I do not think any scene, piece of music, moment conveys the sense of doom, hopelessness, complete devastation as Vogel im Kavik. The series tees up the central void in front of our very eyes, and Eren's, in the first episode, and then plays back on it over and over and over again until we're just as passionate about escaping it and winning against it, feeling the betrayals that come out of it. We will do anything to not feel its presence because of how horrifically devastating it feels. And in many ways, it is the strong center, the hopelessness and fighting against it at any and all costs. And though the concentric circle thing might be a bit on the nose, I said in strong center, this one hits harder and realer than maybe anything else ever made, at least anything else I've seen. So that's what this color is here for. Give it out. Rainbow it is. Moving on to Intercom is purple. And similar to Deep Interlock, the series gets all the props for the way it emergently mines out information, reveals of information, character portrayals, you name it. The overload of Grisha's backstory, on some level the government arc as well, are the only areas where I'd say maybe it pushes the information overload a little too much, but the rest of it really is so expertly done that, just like Deep Interlock, purple. And last but not least, not separateness, is blue. Now, I mean, you could argue that Eren will never be not separate from his trauma, nor will we. And that's the point. And the series plays on the character bits of this well in season 2. But, for the most part, our characters remain together for the vast majority of the action in the first 3 seasons. So even though the bits are there, it will take another season to really mine out this tenet. So for right now, blue. And here we go. So for Attack on Titan, seasons 1 to 3, we have Levels of scale, purple. Strong centers, purple. Boundaries, blue. Alternating repetition, green. Positive space, purple. Good shape, blue. Local symmetries, purple. Deep interlock, purple. Contrast, blue. Graded variation, blue. Roughness, blue. Echoes, blue. The void, rainbow. Intercom, purple. Not separateness, blue. And the overall ranking for this set of narrative, I would say, is blue-purple. And in all honesty, I could see myself justifying a, quote, light purple here. That means it's much more lean purple than a mix of the two, especially given how rare I treat these rainbows and given that one of them showed up here. But A, I feel compelled to save it, at least for a little bit, for Season 4, because I know for me Season 4 hits higher, and B, it does feel right. The first seasons of Attack on Titan, at least initially, are a little light on character. Doesn't mean the characters are not excellent, but they do take a back seat for the other stuff. And Attack on Titan Seasons 1 through 3 is nigh flawless on world building, mining out the emergent reveals and mysteries of the magic system, and more than anything else, the sense of despair and hopelessness built into our characters and us from the very beginning. So them stopping at nothing to defeat that feeling, we feel it too. Only for it to then be revealed at the very end that all of it was a lie. And there we go. As I said before, I'm not going to be doing a memory section for this because on a video level it would probably take 40 minutes because I'd be giving out a blue memory pretty much for every episode, probably more than that. So let's keep the review concise here, and we'll be back for Season 4, and given I've already teed it up, we'll see how high Season 4 hits. And I hope you've enjoyed this as much as I have. This is one of my favorite shows ever, and I'll see you on the other side. Cheers.